Hello there, Vic Benedict here. We're playing Ninja Gaiden 2 on the Series X, and this is my Master Ninja difficulty Gaiden walkthrough. We're currently on Chapter 2 of 14. It is entitled The House of the Dragon. So hopefully, in the course of Chapter 1, you were able to buy the two upgrades that will have got your Dragon Sword and Lunar up to level 2 strength. And I didn't mention it in the video because I was taking it for granted that folks knew what the upgrades in question were, but they just were 2,000 upgrades totaling 40,000. So I actually put an annotation in the description for that video because, like I said, I took it for granted that people would know what I meant by that. So I do apologize. I will try to refrain from doing that in the future. But Chapter 2 has some very difficult fights on it. Some pretty merciless and brutal fights, if you ask me. But this first gauntlet isn't too bad. And I say that because there is the choice of running past a couple of enemies, but the final batch of enemies that you deal with, they're archers that shoot flaming arrows at you. They can't be unspawned no matter what you do. You can spawn them and then run all the way back to the very, very beginning of the chapter where we started at, and then you come back to that location. You know, that area where you're running on the water? They'll still be there waiting for you. So in the course of the video, I will be upgrading my my Falcon's Talons to level 2. So that we can start using one of the best moves in the game for at least for de-limbing, which is forward Y. And I will also be upgrading my Lunar to level 3 strength by the time we get to the boss of the chapter, because there are a couple of ways to deal with Genshin. Forward Y with if you want to commit to forward Y with the Talons. Go for the upgrade to level 3 with the Talons. If you want to do the strategy that I use, which is XXY, then commit to the level 3 strength of the Lunar. So it's going to be based on your personal, how that works out for you. But when you come up here, you're going to be spawning some dogs and some archers. Now on these dogs, you really need to be using the rotate Y attack, that while it doesn't have 100% armor, it at least lets you use the move even if you get damaged somewhat, and it doesn't interrupt you, but the trade-off is you get damaged. Just depending on how brutal the attack is that you're getting damaged to, that's going to dictate how much damage you do. But you want to have staggered essence on board for this chapter, meaning that if there is essence around and you want to jump away from it and do an on-landing charge, make sure that you're holding the block button in. So on Ninja Gaiden 2, they changed how that worked from the previous entries, Ninja Gaiden Black, because basically if enemies are not around, the essence that you would normally see staggered all goes immediately right to you. So the only essence that you can do that to is if there are enemies around in the vicinity. So long as you're holding the block button, and you could be jumping around too. You don't have to be standing in one place. You could be jumping around, but just make sure you're holding the block button the entire time you're moving. At least that will keep the essence in place, and then you can proceed with your next actions. Now we do have some runners over here. These runners are going to be the at least this wasn't too much of the brutal attack that they can do, where they do a suicide attack on you. But yeah, on this it's just doing the 360Y with this weapon. And if you want, you can run past, when you spawn these enemies, you can run past them and just focus on excuse me, you can focus on the last 3 archers. But I don't want to unspawn enemies, and I want to use different methods that I've from which I've used before. So on other walkthroughs I've always ran past them, but and them I mean the dogs. So when you're approaching flaming arrow archers, what you want to do is just guard. you'll get your guard broken, and you will receive a little bit of chip damage, but it's nowhere near the damage you would ordinarily receive if you were jumping, trying to like dash, evade, and then jump in the air from a dash. Because if you get hit out of the air like that, you're going to be getting dealt way more than chip damage. Over here, this is absolute complete fucking bullshit, this right here. I really deplore this. It's the cheapest thing that they could have done, and right after you throw one Inferno, he doesn't have the capacity to throw another one right after. So in the time between those two throws, or however many throws you get, and of course I didn't get an essence right there, a yellow essence, or I mean sorry, an impo essence, fucking game. But there is that downtime where you need to recover, and you need to be real careful about that. So over here, there's going to be, and also I did bypass the Great Bridge Challenge. I will be doing all the fights in the chapter, so not all the Test of Valors, but all the fights in the chapter. I have a full walkthrough for the Test of Valor that I could leave in the description and all these videos. But you see how I'm just dashing towards them, keeping my guard up? Now, the reason I want to save the bridge trial for later is because I want to make sure that I have the talons for that fight. And I want to make sure that I have the ability to upgrade it to level 2. But before you even go into the room that has the talons, there's a fight out here. And I normally don't do this fight as well either, but since I have committed to doing all the fights in the game, with hopefully unspawning the least amount of enemies possible, because sometimes enemies just get unspawned. It's the nature of how large some of the areas are, and how your movements are so flighty a lot of times out of necessity. Try to get to a better position. But yeah, so kill this wave, and then we're going to be doing the next room up here. Now I have put an edit over here, and I would advise saving after each of these fights because they're very difficult fights. Now the challenge room coming up that well, I don't know if it's a challenge room, but the weapon room that has the talons in it. There's also a chest that has bats in it, or it's one of those dynamic chests that has bats or 1,000 in yellow essence. So if you don't get to 1,000 with yellow essence, don't worry about it, because you can chain essence into an attack from the bat kill essence that you drop. So I don't know what I get over here. Probably is the 1,000 in essence. Yeah, and then you can come up here, and the nice thing about the Lunar 360 YUT, or the ET, is that you don't have to make contact with an enemy for the UT to fully animate and proceed, because on other weapons where you haven't connected with an enemy, just take the Dragon Sword for Christ's sakes, for an instance. If you don't connect with somebody, he's just going to stop the UT, and it's going to cause you to not be able to take advantage of something that could be possibly taken advantage of and capitalized upon. So over here, the order of the day here, folks, you want to be doing the Azuna drop with the Dragon Sword. I would shy away from using the Azuna drop with the Lunar, because, as I've mentioned in the previous video, you can't do a ground-based Lunar attack. At least you can't start the move off on the ground. It has to be from a jumping attack that makes contact with the enemy. There is the parry. So when you get your Y attack parry, press XY and he'll do an Azuna drop. So over here we have a Grains, and then over here we've got the Falcon's Talons. So I would recommend filling out your health, and do all your bartering with Haramasa, or I'm sorry, Miramasa. I think I was thinking of Harambe, and I just conflated the names there. I do apologize about that. And the only reason I was even thinking about Harambe was that there was some tweets, and people were mentioning his, like he was the second coming of Jesus or something. But coming back over here now, visit the store. So we should have all three of our weapons up to level 2 at this point. And we've got a fair bit of money, enough at least to buy the Talons to level 2. And with the Talons to level 2, you can start doing the Flying Swallow into Azuna drop. So how that works is you do a Flying Swallow, and then you press, obviously you're going to be pressing Y, so aim the analog in the direction of the enemy, press Y, and then press X, Y when you have them in the air. That will do the Azuna drop. However, it's bad form to do that. And I have a caveat about the whole bad form thing in just a minute, but it is bad form to just do a regular Flying Swallow, because it is prescribed by gamers that are better at this game than I, that you want to do the wind run into the Flying Swallow. So if you don't know, the wind run is a homing jump. It's an auto-targeting attack that auto-targets an enemy, and it guarantees more than just a manual scenario where you're just doing the regular Flying Swallow, which is just forward plus Y, in the air at least, but after a jump. But yes, it is prescribed. So if you want the prescribed way to do it, you press A plus X to do the wind run, followed by Y, and then X, Y in the air. Now, I have a hard time not getting messed up with the whole process of trying to marry my wind run into that Flying Swallow and then compensate for the rest of the button combo. It's just a personal thing that you probably don't even have the same personal thing I have, but I mess up quite a bit, as I just did there. I mess up quite a lot on these throws because I get confused about the time window in which I need to press the buttons and what buttons I've pressed in all the haste and high of pressing all of those buttons, because let's face it, there's quite a lot of buttons you need to press for all those to work out for yourself. But there's the life of the gods. Now we're going to come back and do the Test of Valor, it should be. Okay, so the Test of Valor, I have gone through and at least attempted to do the Test of Valor in the area that it starts out in that little village area, but I found that it was just too unmanageable. And for people that are playing this game, maybe for the first or second time, they're really going to need something that is more reliable than something that purely is only going to benefit you from skill, and such people might not have that skill developed at that point. So I am taking considerations for that by not doing this fight over here. So I would highly recommend that after you do your charge over here, you go into the house. Do not go back in the direction of where the save statue was, because you'll unspawn the fight and you won't be able to get your Rod of Trials. So think of the Rod of Trials as potential earning investment later in the game for when you start doing them. But it's basically, you go into one of the houses, and then if you don't have full health, what you can do is you approach the back of the room like I just did here. And if you approach the back of the room, the furthest wall from this door over here, you'll get your permanent damage filled out. And then you can leave any potential staggered essence you have of blues to give you extra damage that's non-critical damage being restored. But if you don't have any staggered blues, then you're just going to be able to get back. Do you see the little black centerpiece in my health bar where it's green, black, and red? I'm only going to be getting back that black part. Well, I chose to go in the door before I could speak about that, but after each of these fights, I implore you to run up against the wall as far back as you can and regenerate your lost critical damage up to the part where the red bar starts. Okay? And I wouldn't stray too far from this house because you've got archers over there. And this method, I believe it does cause one or two of the archers to despawn. But sometimes it's just the trials of the game, and you've got to take what you can get, even if what you get getting isn't necessarily very helpful in the fucking first place. But so let one or two enemies in. Well, you can't really control it, can you? But come over here for safety, and then just start chucking guys into walls. Ideally, you'll have two that you're fighting at any given time, but as you've seen, we've had three at one point, I believe. And then when it starts to just be one of them coming in at one time, then you know that you've made a decent enough progression so that the fight should be concluding pretty soon. So let's take a look here and actually see what we have over here. We've got one more guy out here, possibly two. It's really hard to start an on-landing charge from around that corner, but who else needs to come in? You son of a gun. Somebody was with him. But yeah, this chapter is rough. I mean, a lot of times on Ninja Gaiden 2 chapters, you are starting out on a gauntlet that's often merciless and doesn't have any real consideration for you as a player. So while that isn't to say it's unfair, it is to say that it can be very difficult and feel like it's like a sadistic experience that you're undergoing. So we just have, it looks like one archer over here. So, but we don't have the bow yet, so we're gonna have to charge him, and then that should give us access to the Rod of Trials there. And then by all means, go back and save it. I would recommend that. All right, save your progress. You're not gonna see me do it because I do it in the editing cutting room floor. So as we come up here now, there's going to be guys in towers up here, whom I believe all the tower guys. Take that at your own risk, though, because I don't know 100% if they all unspawn, but I do have the feeling that if they don't unspawn, they won't live, so to speak, through the saving of your game. If you went back and saved at the dragon statue, reloaded your game, and if you came back, would they be all gone? Yeah, I'm definitely sure about that, but as far as them just depopulating the world that you're in now, it's anybody's guess. So as you come up here, remember to just bob and weave from one side of the hill to the next, and try to get your flying swallows to work, get your Izuna drops, because at this point we're looking for health and we're looking for Nimpo. This is not a grinding concern where we need to be considerate of getting a lot of money. So as we notice there, possibly we have an IS set coming up over here, and switch to the the Falcon's Talons to do forward Y, and he'll do that move. I'm not sure what it's called. I'll link a description for somebody in the future, but I think it might be called Rolling Thunder or something like that. But it's just forward Y, and he does a move that has a very high probability of delimming, like seemingly over 99% if you do it correctly. And by correctly, I mean, are you facing the enemy the proper way, so that if you do that input, are you at a position where pressing or tilting the element forward is the way to cut his leg off, not any other way. So we have more of these guys, but do not worry over here. There's a save statue coming up, but don't rush over to get it because it will be inaccessible, and this method just works too well with these weapons. These are fantastic for maiming and executing these enemies, and it's just utterly fantastic. So you can use this method on Genshin if you want to, but I found that for beginners' sakes, or hell, even people that just didn't know about that strategy, XXY is quite good too. Quite good. So down we go now, and are we done yet? No, probably not. But this never gets out of hand, though, as long as you're prompt about executing them. I don't think I've had two of them at once ever given me a big hard time. The only downside is that your OTs are never going to get you anything but yellow. So that's one concern. Okay, so now as we come up here, there is a Muramasa's over to the left. I'm going to save it, and then as you proceed forward over here, you will be getting snuck up on behind you. There's about 3 IS Ninja. There we go. That was a drop that we needed, so because it is, I'm definitely going to go back and save it. And if you don't see me save it necessarily, it's because I snuck in an edit somewhere. Not out of a need to be secretive, mind you, but just a need so that the gameplay isn't disrupted too much on a visual aspect. But the best way to do this, if you want to capitalize on kills and capitalize on UTs, is to come down here, let everybody follow you down in this pit, have ready a UT for them, and then just fire that off. These ones could definitely be unspawned. These ones over here. Okay, then as you progress, folks, there's going to be more archers with flaming arrows. And if I said grenades at some point, forgive me. I'm at a lapse. But you will have these guys following you over here. So if you wanted to have them follow you down that shaft in the manner in which the other ones did, you can do that by all means. But I found it was a little redundant putting that 2 times over in a video, especially when I had just done it fairly recently too. Okay, so with that, we're going to move forward over here in just a moment's sake, and there's going to be a chest that has blue essence, but before you get over there, you're going to notice that IS Ninjas are dropping in, potentially surrounding you over here. So it is very good to start this fight off with a full level charge, possibly with the Lunar. So this is the good thing about the Lunar, even though I did miss right there. I didn't cross the tripwire enough. But it doesn't matter here because see how we don't have to hit anybody for the animation to fully complete, as I mentioned earlier in the video. We only need enemies to just land in it at some point, and that will do what we need done in an efficient and effective manner. Okay, so after this, what I would recommend, and again, excuse me, is going to depend on your patience level, folks. You can manipulate this chest upcoming. Over here it has ghost fish, so it's just going to be whether or not you can endure it every single time. Because if you charge off ghost fish, you get a considerable amount more. So I got the yellow essence. I didn't want to screw around too much with manipulating it because the run back is quite long, is what it is. Okay, so I suppose the prescribed area where this fight takes place in the minds of the developers or of real gamers, which is a misnomer because I'm a real gamer, but yet, you know, I'm not the type of person that makes the game either, but the mages, though, big problem. They're complete nuisances, and they're not nuisances in that they're funny. It's nuisances in that they are very difficult, and while they are fair, they're very deadly, and you don't want to give them any slack. You'll hang yourself with it. It's one of those. But definitely, if you are low on essence, I'll show you where there's a point at which you can farm essence, but it doesn't seem to work too well, only because you're on a roof that doesn't have. How would I explain that? The roof is it's raised in areas and it's lowered in certain others, and it's just not stable looking. And then thinking of things that are questionably difficult, we've got a mid-level boss fight with the boss from Chapter 1, the Resetsu. And before you get there, just try to make sure that your level 2 Lunar is maxed out to that specific level. You can have it up to level 3 if you want, but I would recommend distributing your upgrades across all of your weapons early on in the game, because you only have a few at first, so that you can stagger all of your upgrades and have not necessarily the best upgrades at all time, but at least the mid-level strengths of those weapons for all the weapons at any time. So we've got, I think, 4 mages over here, and each enemy is worth a base amount of points on this, but when you consider the multiplier, that's going to figure out how much essence you get in the end when the final tally score comes in and you're judged. So just bear that in mind. And unfortunately, I'm not the type of person that has that sort of data in his mind ready to go at any moment. So I could probably find it and put it on the walkthrough, but it isn't that important. The key thing of importance is just to know that your combo is going to affect drastically how much essence you get. So on that fight, though, up there with those mages, you can skip them if you want to, but there's a never-ending amount of them. Is the problem. Well, let me rephrase that. There's 4 each time, but if you ever find yourself fall off that roof for some reason, and then you know, maybe an enemy pushes you off, or the column of fire just casts you off, or something goes wrong and you fall off the roof. Every time you run back to that roof area, you'll spawn 4 more of those mages, and they're worth a goodish amount of points. And that could result in you, if you wanted to grind for money off of those enemies, but it's not the most it's fairly thankless, is what I think I meant to say. But the run back is what makes it so. It really does, because it's a pretty far back run back. And then we've got the Resetsu now. I would equip the Lunar if I were you, and depending on what he does, you either are going to be whiffing your ultimate technique or getting the ultimate technique to hit. Either way, it should result in you not getting hit, and in the latter case, not getting hit plus dealing him damage. So now that we have the Lunar up to level 2, the Falcon's Talons up to level 2, we can fly swallow as in a drop the ISs, and hopefully we can benefit from any splash damage that occurs from that. We can also benefit from any Azuna drop that has splash damage. I mean, they all have splash damage, but any particular way that you can make the Azuna drop work with your allotment of weapons and your what strength those weapons are. So feel free to use the Nimpo here, and basically same deal from before. We're trying to get splash damage hits on him. We're trying to look for staggered essence in the environment. The essence in this game simply doesn't stagger fast enough. It really needs to stagger twice as fast. This game is such a fast-paced game. It's so action-oriented and action-heavy that it seems kind of a drag when you're just sitting around waiting for enemies to burn up with the Inferno, which takes forever, and then for the essence to come out of that burned body, which again, added to the first amount of time that you wait, takes even longer because you're just sitting there waiting for the body to completely animate and burn up. But don't get excited now. Don't begin to think you can rest on your laurels at this point, because even one IS ninja can completely ruin your whole session if you let him. So what you need to do is fly swallow as in a drop all the enemies that you can, and then now we have the bow. So with the bow, when you're going one-on-one against an enemy, particularly the one that has like a rocket launcher or some other type of projectile. I'm not necessarily talking about the standard enemies that just have regular arrows like we do. I'm talking about like the ones that can knock you back, break your guard, and deal you a lot of damage. Down here there's some items. There's like grains, and there's also a chest down here that it's a dynamic chest, and it contains 1,000 in yellow essence, or it contains fish. So I use the words dynamic and standard. Is that what I said? Standard and, or yeah, I think I said dynamic and static. Yeah, that's what it was. That's terminology taken from Master Ninja Rhymes walkthrough that was uploaded to YouTube God knows how many years ago. But I really liked his terminology, and I thought it fit well as far as how to talk about the game, and it's readily understandable by a lot of people. But anyway, a static chest, if you want to just hear out my logic to it and Rhymes logic, is any chest that you open that will always give you the same thing no matter what. And then a dynamic chest is a chest that will give you one of two or more results. In this game, it's usually just two results. But as far as when you're coming up against an enemy that has the ability to shoot projectiles at you like this guy has over here, what you want to do is you want to do an on-landing, you want to do an aerial hit with the arrow to stagger him, come down and get an on-landing charge so that you're in that perfect standing charge, and then that's going to expedite your charge enough for you to get off an on-landing ET arrow sent into the enemy, which will delimb that enemy and prevent you from getting damaged. So anytime you need to know the key to all of that I just said, or the legend, just come back and consult the video, and maybe I'll write the legend down for anyone that needs to know it. But I can't always assume that I'll know it, because I make these videos sometimes a few months before they're actually first published, and then by the time that people start watching them, I'm on to other projects. But I still keep in touch with the comments that are going on any walkthrough on my channel that's, for all intents and purposes, live. Okay, so now we come down in here. Always try to play this game smart, though, because we have 2 mushrooms coming up. So don't try to overbuy things at the Miramasa shop. It's not going to be worth it in the end. So what I would recommend is to go to Miramasa's, buy one, or buy, say there's 3 items that you can purchase for 1 item. Just buy 2, because there's probably going to be an item coming up. Or if there's 2 of the same item coming up, just buy 1. Especially on the corpses that you can't manipulate, which would be considered by me to be a static pickup, because there's a lot of times in this game when you come across a corpse on the ground that just gives you 1 item, like he'll give you a grains, or he'll give you a double wing mushroom, and obviously those can't be manipulated unless you go into a fight and use that particular item, and if you are able to then come back and pick it up off the corpse. But that doesn't always happen. Okay, so now we're going to be coming up pretty shortly on a fight with some mages over here. There's a ton of these mages, but you have to always be thinking in terms of how much money can I possibly get off a fight such as this. And the answer is going to depend on what the fight entails, how aggravating it can be, how easy it is to die on it, and factors like that. So on this particular fight, yes, there is a threat of death at moments when you are at pretty low health, but the thing is that the weapon that we're going to be using to grind money off of enemies is going to be the Lunar, and we don't have to take much of a risk with the Lunar, to be honest, because you can dial in that 360Y UT, and even if it hits absolutely nothing, at least you tried, and at least you were able to confirm that all of the animation was able to play out, and you ended up getting nothing. Well, that's just because of misfortune. So I don't know how many mages there are down here, and some people were asking why I have the you see where it says karma, combo, and kill score on the upper left of the screen, right below my HUD up there. People were asking me, since I never in the past have sought to put that on the screen, why now have it on the screen? Well, it's due to a couple factors, one of which is that I've gone through the mission mode challenges, and I've gained a newer type of appreciation for the score system in this game, particularly the survival missions in mission mode, where you have to go through the survival missions and on Master Ninja get 2 million more essence for your final score. And having that I don't know what you would call it, that scorecard up at all times gives you an indication of what's going on, what you have left to do, essentially how well you're doing, how much progress you're making on your goal. And in the past, I've spoken about how it gets in the way of the image, but it doesn't really get in the way. It's more important. I mean, it does get in the way a little bit, but it's more important to have data being fed to you at any given time than to have a tiny bit of the screen, have text on it that you can see around anyway. It's not too obtrusive. Okay, so the fight's done. There's not many mages on Sigma 2 out there, if there's any. Sigma 2 seemed to really strip the game down to its bare parts, that you're wandering through a game that seems in large part empty, and it's kind of depressing when you play it. But anyway, you need to take so when you jump into this building, a moment ago we jumped into this building through that crack in the wall. You want to take a left at first, because if you take a right, the archers have an easier time shooting you. Like they ever have a hard time shooting you, but it is a little safer to go to the left. And strangely enough, did you see what happened there the whole time I went in there? If you do choose to go to the right, not only are you more vulnerable to the archers' flaming arrows, but you get the ISs coming into the room. Now, if you just stay to the left and don't backtrack the way I did. See, the reason why I backtracked after I killed that first wave was I backtracked to show you that if you do come into the room and go over to the right way, you will spawn more ISs into the room. So I'm not talking about these ones that are coming up here. No, these are always ones up here that come. I'm talking about if I had come in this room, taken a right, you would have seen them all jump up from the ladder area where we descend in a moment to get to Muramasa's shop and to the save statue. So we are getting close to Genshin now, and yes, Genshin does have lackeys, but he has a number of lackeys that is not egregious, is how I would say it, because normally I think any number of lackeys are egregious. Just by the sheer fact that if a boss can't hold his own, in my opinion, he's not a real boss. What does he need help for? He's called a boss. But the thing about him is that I don't think he has more than 4 lackeys, 5 at the most. So they're easily dealt with using your Nimpo and using Azuna drops. Just be careful, because he does have an anti-aerial counter attack that he does. So anytime you jump near him, just a regular jump or a dash evade, or I guess I should say a dash that turns into a jumping evade, that's gonna have him cut you down out of the air. So there's a Life of the Gods over to the left, and if I hadn't fallen, we'd be on the fight by now. But anyway, here it is right there. Pick it up and then go. Here's the fight right over here. Now why do I have these on? Since I mentioned early in the video that I'm going to be using the Lunar on him. Well, the Falcon's Talons is for the lackeys to do, and I missed it. See how many times I missed that? I miss it all the time, but I hope to get better on it. It's just that I just got these, and I guess I just haven't really adapted to. Or maybe I just plain suck, is what I think is a better way of putting things, if you want to lay things completely bare. But yes, Fly Swallow is in a drop. These guys here. Now you might say, well, isn't Fly Swallow is in a drop an airborne attack, and doesn't he cut down airborne attacks? Yes, but try to stay away from him enough so that you're out of range of any of his counterattacks that he would do if you were in the air. I don't think you could damage him with the Inferno. But once the room is clear, then you want to switch either to, well, it's your choice. You can switch to any of the 3 weapons you want to, providing on which is a more comfortable one for you. But the thing is, he takes to UTs and ETs. ETs even better, and he also takes to, well, he doesn't take to the Lunar, the Azuna drop the way he does in Sigma 2. But that's the game we should remember remember that it's, you know, not the game we're playing, and I don't want to get distracted from overly comparing it to this game, which is by far superior. Everybody knows that. But I chose instead to not use the Y with the dragon sword, and not to use the forward Y to deal with him with the Falcon's Talons. But instead I found that with the level 3 Lunar, XXY was able to get the job done and have the job get done cleaner than using any of the other weapons. You want to stay away from his long combo, because what happens is you get stuck in it and it staggers you and you get hit by the full combo. It's really brutal, actually. But the nice thing is you can do 360 Y ETs, and it works out really well too for him. But with the Falcon's Talons Y, what you have to do is you go in for one attack, and if he takes to it, in other words, if you hit him, then you go in for a second, and then repeat that until he doesn't allow you to hit him, and then at that point you back off, otherwise he'll retaliate. But there it is, chapter 2 completed. I hope to see you in the next video. I hope that this video helped you, and until we see each other again, please take care.